My name is Edward Richtofen.
Dr. Edward Richtofen, one of the most beloved characters in Zombies and Call of Duty as a whole. Now, if you've been living under a rock, the past few days with Season 2's release has given us some exciting new intel confirming the existence and the return of Richtofen inside of Cold War Zombies. But this video isn't going to be going over the stuff we already know. This is going to be going over brand new information from Treyarch themselves, basically confirming that Richtofen is returning, but giving us some context on what to expect. Because the version of Richtofen that we're going to see in Cold War is going to be very different to what we expect, and I'm going to be going into exactly why. So as we get into things, I'd love to know your thoughts in the comment section below. Drop this video a like if you're excited to see Richtofen officially return in Cold War, because it's happening, and let's tell you why. One of the new Maxis Intels that you can get in Season 2 is a diary entry from Samantha herself, who's written this after the events of Firebase Z, where she was taken into quarantine. She kept a diary of her thoughts, and this is what she wrote. I see faces of people I care about and faces of people that don't care for me. Sometimes it's hard to distinguish between the two, but one face stands out from all others, the face of a child, a boy. Somehow, I feel he is dangerous. Dreams are unreliable witnesses, as too am I. And this is undoubtedly a link back to Maxis's childhood during the end of Tag der Toten, where her and Eddie, as children, walked through that portal into the world that we're in now. There are four beloved heroes, Nikolai, Dempsey, Richtofen, and Takeo, made the ultimate sacrifice to rid the world entirely of zombies and ether, since their souls and existence were binded to the ether's existence. And they sacrificed themselves so the young versions of Samantha and Eddie could live a normal life. So with that context, with the Tag ending, it means that the original four characters, Ultimus, Primus, they cannot exist. Their souls don't exist because the ether doesn't exist anymore. They are dead for good. Now you're probably wondering, what do I mean by the truth about Richtofen's return in Cold War Zombies? Well, there was a brand new interview had with Craig Houston and IGN India talking about Black Ops Cold War Zombies. And Craig says word for word that the previous incarnations, which we call the ether story, that involve Richtofen and all those characters, that came to a definite end at the end of Black Ops 4, and we were passionate about not rewriting Richtofen's story. One of the things he said was that those characters did what they did to try and create a singular world where zombies didn't exist, and unfortunately, because of the experiments in World War II, they were only half right. This is no longer a time-traveling, multi-dimensional story. This is grounded in Cold War. But this is the really important bit of information, that there is a clear continuity between Black Ops 4 and current events in Zombies, where at the end of the Black Ops 4 storyline, they had two clear characters that needed to be referenced going forward, and that was Maxis and Edward Richtofen, the young versions of them both. Craig then goes on to say, so we have shown people what Maxis is up to. Any other characters that might reappear will be dealt with in later seasons, which is quite clearly hinting hugely at Edward Richtofen's return in Zombies in the later seasons, potentially even as early as Season 3, since Maxis is referencing him in a dream. However, the main takeaways and the truth of Richtofen's return in Cold War Zombies is in Craig's wording, saying that this is not a rewriting of his story. The version of Edward Richtofen, or Eddie as we'll call him for the rest of this video, that we'll see in Cold War will be an entirely different character to what we've gotten used to as being Richtofen in the past. We've had two very different versions of Edward Richtofen. We've had the crazy demonic German scientist from World at War and Black Ops 1 days, and then we have the Primus version of Richtofen that a lot of you will probably relate to more as a much more realistic, down-to-earth character version of Richtofen. The version of Eddie that we're going to see in Cold War is going to be completely separate from either two of these character types. This character is going to be very different because Craig has insisted that they don't want to rewrite his story. Richtofen's previous story and his previous incarnations is what it is. Could there be a chance that some of the personality traits of Ultimus and Primus could rub off on this new version? Absolutely, but the main premise is that it's going to be an entirely different character. And one of the big questions when you hear about Richtofen returning but being different is the potential that he might be recast by a different voice actor that's not Nolan North. And Nolan North has stated even before Cold War's release that he is not voicing Richtofen and that Richtofen is not in the new Call of Duty. Now, Nolan North was never wrong with that information, but technically we're not not seeing Richtofen in Cold War, but we're going to be seeing Eddie in Cold War. Now, from my own personal opinion, I'd love nothing more than Nolan North to come back and reprise his voice acting role to voice Eddie, because after voicing such an iconic character for like the last decade, it just makes no sense for anyone else to do it. But on the other hand, since this character is going to be very different to the Richtofen'S we've come to know over the past decade, that also opens up the possibility of a different voice actor taking on this role. But if Samantha's behaviors and personality is anything to go by as an adult, then Eddie is also going to be a very unique character, but definitely a broken character, and like Samantha said in her dream, potentially dangerous. Now, I touched on this very briefly in my upload yesterday, talking about the next Zombies DLC map, Berlin. There's a ton of incredible storyline stuff to do with that. I really recommend you guys watch that video once you're done watching this one. We're not quite finished yet, but you're definitely going to want to check that out after. But with the next part of the storyline taking place in Berlin with an ongoing situation with Dr. Valentina, she is planning something incredibly dangerous by using Omega's research to create her own dimensional breaches. But she isn't alone here. She's joined by one mysterious contact in Berlin who is both male and speaks German. Now, so far with DLC 1, we've been introduced to one of the new main characters, which is Ravenov, and there's every chance that this German character could just be someone completely new. But it is very suspicious that we know the context now that Eddie exists in this universe, as referenced by Samantha, and Valentina is met up with an unknown contact who is both male and German. And to make things even more suspicious is that Requiem are currently working to try identify Valentina's contact, but they cannot match them with any known Omega or KGB asset, meaning they are someone that works entirely alone, is not part of any group, which matches very funnily enough to Samantha's background as well prior to working with Requiem, where she worked as a German BND officer. And it makes complete sense that Eddie of all people would be the one contact that cannot be matched by any of Requiem's currently known intel on known Omega or KGB assets. So with this context in mind, you can start to build up a little bit of a small theory that potentially Eddie's involvement with Dr. Valentina on trying to open dimensional breaches in Berlin would fit the criteria that Samantha describes in her dream, that he is potentially dangerous. And if Eddie is helping Dr. Valentina, then he definitely is potentially dangerous, because Dr. Valentina wants to open dimensional breaches herself in order to bring the undead German army from World War II back into the current day of 1984. Like I said, I go way more into detail on it in my previous upload, but there's intels that mention about how she's plotting behind Omega Group's back to open the Third Front, facilitate the Reichstag's plan, arriving in Germany, stealing technology from Dr. Peck to try and open her own dimensional breaches to allow the undead German army from World War II out of the dark ether and into present day to create this horrible dystopian future where Germany is going to rule over the world. Almost like an alternative World War II ending where Germany won and reigned over the entire globe. But aside from the clues that this person is a male and they're German, and Samantha's reference that this boy is potentially dangerous, there is no other concrete proof that this is Eddie Richtofen, but it's just a bunch of threads that you can connect together. But the main gist is that Eddie Richtofen is going to be completely different to what we've known of him before. It's not a rewriting of his story. He is going to be a completely different character to what we've known of him. And if Samantha's intel wasn't enough, the brand new news that basically Craig has confirmed Richtofen's return in later seasons means there is a lot to be excited about. The only real thing we can speculate and sort of worry about really is how different this character is going to be. Let me know what your thoughts are about all of this down below in the comment section. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to leave a like before you leave. It really helps out the channel. And to make sure you never miss another video like this, hit that subscribe button and the bell while you're at it. Here's my huge video from last night talking about DLC 2, the location, everything you need to know. So click that and I'll be with you in just a few moments.